Hello, welcome back to Higurashi, and this might either be a long last episode or I might split it into parts. Either way, I'm going to try to record as much. I think this is the last chapter. If not, it might just be a shorter one. That was my first time losing consciousness. After a year of regaining consciousness on top of a bed, this is my first time actually experiencing it. Hello? Are you okay? Realizing that I was awake, a young doctor called out to me. I didn't intend to respond, but it seemed my body language had told him I was conscious. My head was wrapped in bandages. Scratches all over my body had also been treated. My sense of pain also returned with my consciousness, causing me to groan from intense pain shooting all throughout me. Don't try to get up, just stay lying down, please. It seems that you took quite a few blows to the head. I want you to stay rested so we can monitor your condition for at least the next 24 hours. Where is this? This is my clinic. Pleased to meet you. My name is Erie. I remember this young doctor was the one in the car headed the opposite way earlier. Is there somebody here? Where's Oishi-san? I'll call him over. There's no smoking inside the clinic, so I had him smoke outside. Dr. Erie. I swear I pronounce his name wrong all the time. Dr. Erie? Dr. Erie. I think that is how you say it. He left the room to go call Oishi. The scenery outside the window was scented with gold. The pouring rain had stopped, and the voices of the Higurashi heralding the cooling temperature. I felt that the tone of the Higurashi's voice was comforting. Eventually I could hear the footsteps coming closer, which I reckoned to be Oishi's. The fog that was enveloping my head slowly faded back to reality. What had happened since then? What had happened to the boy? What about the reinforcements from Tokyo? The door to the room flew open, allowing Dr. Eri and Oishi to enter. So there's no serious damage, is there? I can't promise that. I assessed the wound to his head was dangerous the moment I saw it. Got it. I wanted to have a little chat alone with him for a bit. Would you mind? Yeah, go ahead. Call me if anything happens. Oishi, after basically forcing Dr. Eri outside, shut the door. How are you feeling? I did something I'm not used to, so I'm pretty banged up all over. Oishi brought over a folding chair that was leaning against the wall and sat down beside the bed. Were the perpetrators arrested? Unfortunately, no. They probably already fled the prefecture or are being hidden by the villagers. Well, we won't let them get away. Nufufu. What about the minister's grandson? We're taking care of him at the station. But your colleagues from Tokyo are rather insistent that nothing be recorded. Shige-chan doesn't like that too much. Kidnapping was a confidential matter, so his custody was also probably being kept under wraps. How the kidnapping of the minister's grandson would be handled, how it would be covered up, treated like it never happened, would be handled by the brass. If this case ended up without the nation going into an uproar about it, then our job had been done. The possibility that the minister had negotiated with the perpetrators couldn't be ruled out. When something like that was no longer my concern, my role in this case was over. Sorry for the trouble. You must think that public safety is rather unseemly place, don't you? No. We all worked on the government's dime. She laughed boisterously. When we first met, I was somewhat prejudiced against Oishi, but now that feeling was gone completely. It would be more convenient for us if this case was handled properly instead of being hidden away. If that happened, we would be able to have something to go at the Sonozaki family with, since they were behind it all. Well, if we just start poking around, we'll get all sorts of pressure put on us, though. What a mess. Are you going to continue the fight against the Sonozaki family after this? Nah, there's all sorts of dark rooms swirling around them, but it's not like I have a personal grudge. Pretty wise not to step on any toes here. Oh, she laughed happily. I couldn't help but laugh along. Oh, that's right. There was word at the station from the prefecture police. Your colleagues arrived at Nagoya and are driving up here right now. You've got your battle scars, so you're being recalled to Tokyo, apparently. That's how it's shaking out. Good job. Your work in Okonomiya is safely over. I'm being recalled to Tokyo. I inadvertently breathed a sigh of relief when I heard those words. I'm deeply thankful for your cooperation, Oishi. I cannot speak. It seems the collaboration fee I paid you didn't go to waste. I kind of meant that as a joke, though. Oishi took out his wallet, casually pulled out several large bills, and jammed them into the breast pocket of my shirt. This isn't a refund on the collaboration fee, you hear? This is just me gifting you a little spending money. Booze around here is pretty good. Use this to buy yourself a little souvenir. Oishi flashed me a grin. If your injuries turn out to be not too serious, call me before you head back to Tokyo, will you? The old man and Sato-san said they'd like to sit at a table with you again. Oh my, I can't refuse that. And no tricks this time, just some plain old fun. They always say that. This world is done for if an active officer can cheat that blatantly. Not often that we meet someone who's more than a match for us. It's too bad you're going back to Tokyo. When I heard the words going back to Tokyo from Oishi, I was reminded once again that I was relieved from my duties. Soon Yuki would be giving birth, and it might still be possible to attend the delivery that I had at one time given up on. And I thought that the pain from my injuries became trivial. I wanted to hurry back to Tokyo and see Yuki once. Can you pretend that your injuries are a little more serious and hang around Okonomiya for a bit? I can introduce you to a few nice places. Of course, I won't make you pay for everything. I'm terribly sorry, but I'll have to take a rain check on that. My wife is due to give birth any day now. I want to hurry back home. Oh my, I didn't know that. And you shouldn't be hanging around here. You have to hurry back home. For a while after that, Oishi asked all sorts of questions about my wife, teasing and bickering with me. Well then, how do you feel? Think you can get up? Yeah, it's not so bad thanks to you. I can get up and walk no problem. We sat up and shuffled around for a bit, which seemed to amuse Oishi. Nah, I just thought that you might not feel comfortable at the hospital in Hinamizawa. Dr. Eri said he wanted you to stay overnight, but we still haven't caught the perpetrators. For the time being, this is enemy territory for you, after all. Are you saying this hospital isn't safe? No, Dr. Eri is somebody who's well regarded in the community. I don't think anything will happen while you're here, but I'm more worried about your mental health. I had relaxed a bit now that times had progressed this far, but it was exactly as Oishi had said. When I realized this was enemy territory, I suddenly felt uncomfortable. The only thing left for me to do was leave. The chance that I would come to harm was logically fairly low. That didn't mean I was completely safe. That's right. If I'm just going to be lying down, then doing it in a hospital bed, a hotel bed won't be all that different. Right. I also think that's for the best. At the moment, I caught a glimpse of the clock over Oishi's shoulder. It was the evening. Hours when I could call Yuki at the hospital were almost over. I wanted to tell her as quickly as possible that I will soon be back at her side. I want to call Yuki at the hospital. Is there a public phone in the lobby? You newlyweds are all like this. If I recall correctly, there's one by the register. I'll be waiting here, so go ahead. She laughing while saying that he was jealous, opened up the window and pulled out a cigarette even though he was in a hospital room. Appreciative of how considerate Oishi was, I sat out the lobby to find the phone. The lobby was just a short distance down the hall from the hospital room. I thought that this hospital was a bit too grand for a village like this, but of course it was nothing compared to the general hospital Yuki was admitted to. Running inside a hospital wasn't the best of manners, but calling hours would soon end, so I dashed over in a hurry. There's nobody else in the lobby. It may have been evening, but there was nobody at the reception desk. Well, this might actually be lucky for me. I wasn't planning to have a conversation to feel guilty about, but it would still be embarrassing to have someone listen to the conversation between me and Yuki. Taking a quick look around, I soon found the payphone. Digging around in my pockets, found a few coins. I was calling Tokyo from here, so I would burn through this amount fairly quickly. I picked up the receiver and started calling, then dialed the number for Yuki's hospital, which I had completely memorized at this point. Whir. Number for Yuki's hospital had a lot of 8s and 9s, so dialing it inevitably took some time. Normally it wouldn't be a big deal, but currently any time is precious. However, I felt that something was strange as I was dialing the number. I don't know exactly how to put it, but it was as if the receiver was too quiet. Unique white noise from the telephone line wasn't there. Huh? Somehow I felt that I wasn't getting any feedback from the phone. Without feeling a response, I hung up the receiver to try again. The coin popped out from the return slot. I reinserted the coin and began dialing once again, but the receiver was still dead silent. What is this? Is it disconnected? While I was wasting time like this, the amount I had to spend talking with Yuki shrunk. I began to feel needlessly impatient. Excuse me, I felt the presence of someone on the other side of the glass, so I called out. There was an immediate response, and a man who seemed like a pharmacist came over. Yes, how can I help you? Pardon me, this phone seems to be acting a little strange. Can you take a look at it? The man came over and tried testing various things with the receiver pressed to his ear. Come to think of it, this was someone who worked at the hospital, not someone from the phone company. Just as I didn't know much about phones, neither would he. Huh? What's this? The man held up the cord that connected the phone to the wall. It was completely severed. What the heck is that? Well, this is a deadly of a pickle. Can't do anything until somebody from the phone company comes and fixes it. If you're looking for a phone, do you want to use the one in the office? I didn't want the people in the hospital office around while I was talking. Is there another payphone close by? Let's see, if you leave here and follow the road, you'll come out into the shopping district. I think there's a smoke shop on the corner around there. If you head that way, you should be able to find one soon enough. I was just in a hospital gown. I was wearing sandals on my feet. My head was wrapped in bandages. Just looking at me, you could tell I was a hospital patient. No matter how you looked at it, I was not dressed to be wandering outside. But that's where the impromptuness of youth came in. Choosing the chance to talk to Yuki after a little longer, I headed outside from my current state. Follow the road to the shopping district. Should be able to find him soon enough. With only those 2 lines as my guide, I ran outside the gates of the hospital. With the village nestled in a valley, when the sun set, it got dark quickly. The sparse streetlights lit up enough to start attracting moths. The Higurashi, knowing the time for their course, was soon at it closed, redoubled their fragile cries. Finding the payphone wasn't as easy as the person at the hospital suggested. Was it still up ahead? Did I miss it already? Was I getting farther away? I was about to be crushed by the wave of uncertainty toward me. I found a shop on the corner with cigarettes written on a small sign. My joy spurred me onwards. Just as I had heard at the hospital, that next to the counter of cigarette smoke was an antique payphone. I wasn't wearing a watch, so I didn't know what time it was. I probably didn't have much left. But it was enough. Just as long as I could tell Yuki my job was done and I'll be coming home soon. Picking up the receiver, I slid a coin down the slot. But I felt that something was strange, just like at the hospital. Even after inserting the coin, the phone showed no response. I hung up the receiver and tried putting in the coin one more time. There was absolutely no response. The phone was dead. It couldn't be. Thinking that, I felt along the cord that protruded from the back of the phone. Doing that, my hands found the end of a completely severed line. What is this? Having now had the same thing happen twice, my bafflement was accompanied by a sense of unease. It seemed that the cord had been severed cleanly by a sharp blade of some sort. And I may be mistaken, but it didn't look like much time had passed since it was cut. Excuse me, hello? Opening the booth of the window of the tobacco shop, I looked for someone in the dimly lit interior. Eventually, there were sounds of somebody plodding down some stairs, and an old lady appeared. The old lady's plodding and lethargic steps, for some reason, only served to make me more frantic. You need some cigarettes? I need to get my husband. I'm not here to buy cigarettes, rather this phone here. And that's saying the phone was broken and you're not asking him to look at it was going to get me nowhere. I swallowed back my words. Sorry, it seemed that this phone is broken and I was wondering if you could tell me where there was another payphone. The old lady moved her jaw up and down slowly as if chewing on the meaning of my words. It seemed that she wouldn't understand until she had digested things thoroughly. So the phone is broken. Dilly of a pickle, you should try another payphone. slowly directing me to another payphone that seemed quite a ways away. She said the same thing that the freaking receptionist said. Well, this is a dilly of a pickle? Her way of telling me was so long-winded that I inadvertently started to get impatient. At the moment, I saw the large clock in the dim interior of the store. A minute hand was just about to point straight up. Even if there was a phone right here that I could use, I would only be able to tell Yuki good night with the time I had left. After that, my destination was a remote payphone, which I didn't know the exact distance to. If I was of a normal state of mind, deciding to give up the phone today would have been the natural thought process. But at the moment, I had become somewhat stubborn for some reason. Unable to use the phone in the hospital, coming out here and still being unable to use one. There was no mistaking that I had been quite insistent on using a phone. And thank you very much. I'll try looking for that phone booth. Refusing her offer to draw me a map, I left the tobacco shop. According to the old lady, even though the phone booth was quite far away, it would be easy to find. If I just follow the show straight down, I'll eventually find it. Sandals flopping as I ran. I couldn't help but laugh at myself. I'll admit that I was quite steadfast about calling you, but there were days when I was tired or busy when I couldn't call her. Even today, my entire body was covered with injuries, and I'm dead tired. On top of that, there wasn't much time left. It wouldn't be strange at all if today was one of those days I didn't call her. But having twice been foiled trying to call her, become hot-headed about it? Was I like a dog who was being told to stay with a piece of food dangled in my face? What am I doing? Even so, I somehow couldn't quell the uneasy feeling settling in the pit of my stomach. It was like that with the hospital phone, and the same with one of the tobacco shops. Both cords were definitely not severed from being frayed for long years of use. Clean cuts indicated that someone had taken something sharp and deliberately cut them. But who, and for what reason? The more I thought about it, the uneasier I felt, so I tried to push the thought aside. How much had I run so far? Scenery around me was no longer that of a shopping district, with residential buildings scattered about the lonely road. The surroundings had already grown dark. I was blatantly out too far for a quick phone call, and it was quite obvious that I was far removed from the hospital. I called the clock I saw at the tobacco shop. It might almost be time. I had run for quite a bit, so my breathing had grown quite ragged. I just wanted to hear Yuki's voice. I should have just thrown away my reservations and borrowed the phone at the office. I regretted it a little. Well, then, was it about time to give up? Just when I thought that, I saw the light in front of me. I had finally found it. It was a phone booth. It seemed that the light of the phone booth had recently been changed, as it shone with a vivid white light. Although in the gloom of Hinoizawa, it was nothing more than a gathering spot for moths. But in any case, I had finally found it. As my hand touched the door of the phone booth, I realized that I was breathing and sweating heavily. I didn't know what time it was right now, but even if it was just for a moment, I might be able to get in touch with Yuki. Since I had spent all this effort getting here, turning back without even giving it a try was out of the question. Before I picked up the receiver, another wave of uneasiness washed over me. I was worried that this phone cord might be severed as well. How's the cord in this phone booth? Putting down, I followed the bundle of cables as I ran along this corner into the ceiling. At a glance, nothing was out of the ordinary. I ran my fingers as far as I could along the line to check it out. The only thing they found was a thick layer of dust. Nothing out of the ordinary. I wonder if it was popular in Hinoizawa to cut the cords of payphones as some sort of tasteless prank. It might be prudent to talk to Oishi about this later. Even if it was nothing more than a prank, it was still vandalism of public property. In any case, this one was fine, this time. Pulling out a coin from my pocket with one hand, I picked up the receiver with the other. And this time, before the receiver even reached my ear, I felt something was off. The receiver was light. It was more than a slightly unpleasant feeling. It felt almost sickening. To verify the source of my displeasure, I peered at the receiver in my hand with a measure of reluctance. The hell is this? The coiled cord that connected the receiver to the rest of the phone had been ripped apart, with the cable swaying in the air. All I could do to restrain myself as a raw and unpleasant feeling worked its way up the small of my back. It was a type of dread, and at that moment, I heard the crunch of somebody stepping on gravel. The light was reflecting off the cross walls of the booth, leaving me unable to see outside into the darkness. I steeled myself and stepped out of the phone booth. Inside the booth was lit with that strong light which might have made it warmer in there. Just stepping outside, I could feel a chill washing over me. And there was a silhouette of a person. A small silhouette. Here. Long hair, the silhouette was blown about by the cool breeze. Hi, Rika. Injured people should be sneaking out of the hospital. Somewhere in my head, I knew who this girl was. I didn't have any basis for it, but I knew that she was that girl. Right? Akasaka? She, Rika Furude, said that almost like it was a warning. You do this to the phone cord? Her expression remained unchanged, and my question was left unanswered. In other words, no response. Regardless, I felt that she had affirmed my suspicions. Why do you do something like this? Why? The last word had a tinge of anger behind it. I frantically tried to smooth things out, but she didn't seem very afraid. There's nothing that can be done. Huh? I interpreted her words as meaning that I wasn't going to be in time for calling hours at the hospital. But thinking about that would have been a strange thing to say. Why would she know something like that? I could take what she had said to have any other meaning. She just stood there like a mannequin, not even moving an inch, almost to the point that if the wind wasn't occasionally rustling her long hair, there would be the illusion that time had stopped. I know very well that you think I'm disgusting. Becca. Huh? No. That's not true. I do now came out almost like a bad piece of compose for a poetry slam. But her words were right on the mark. I'd always felt something ominous and uncanny about her. It was just her strange threats at the shrine. Did you need to be smiling like that? She had noticed that my expression was contrary to my words, seemingly laughing at the gap between them. Akasaka? You coward. I'm not a coward. Being laughed at by this small child didn't sit well with me, so I said that. Even if you find another phone, it's too late. That's right. Didn't even have to say it. It was absolutely too late. I might have already missed calling hours even by the time I reached this phone booth. I was too late. I had no option but to give up for today. Once I denied that, my unhealthy obsession with the phone suddenly faded. Even though I thought that it was strange that I was that obsessed. That strange obsession now gone, I began to laugh at how hopeless I was. I mean, just look at it. What I was wearing. It wasn't normal. A hospital gown and sandals, my head wrapped in bandages, and my body completely soaked in sweat. It was a wonder that the old lady at the tobacco shop wasn't surprised to see me. Pointing to Higuraki's voices, my motive I had trapezed around the town the entire evening. I didn't know whether to call it the follies of youth or simply plain embarrassing. In any case, it was all I could do. It was all I could do but to laugh at myself. Now, there's nothing left for Akasaka to do tonight. You're right, there's nothing. I'll just quietly return to the hospital. That's fine. Do you know the way? I hope I do. She waved her little hand as I began to head back the way I came. She began to follow alongside me. Looking at her face, I could see that she wore a mischievous smile. And that smile from earlier, as if she was extremely interested in whether or not I would get lost. Is Rika Chan's house also this way? It is. Won't your parents be mad that you're walking around alone at this hour? Not really. My parents are busy today, so they probably forgot about me. Even then, it's best if you head home. But definitely be angry. Even if they are, it's much more interesting to talk with Akasaka. So I'm fine. She said that with a face free from worry as she looked up at me once more and smiled. When she showed me that smile, eerie feelings surrounding her faded. But even then, she was still as mysterious to me as ever. We arrived at the corner I had turned at earlier, but it was much darker than before. And with the point of view changed on the return trip, I wasn't very confident that this was actually the corner I turned at. But there's no mistake. It had to be this. I began to move my feet again. The girl grabbed onto my clothes. You're in Akasaka going back to the hospital? Of course. At least I intend to. Am I going the wrong way? For a moment of silence. Eventually, still holding onto my clothes, she began to walk. It was the beginning of the walk to the hospital this mysterious girl would take me on. Well, like 29 minutes in, so yeah. We might finish this. With the single video. The person who was running around cutting all the phone cords was you, wasn't it, Rika-chan? Shouldn't do that anymore. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Really? I tried to play dumb, but it was written all over her face. It was obvious that she was trying to laugh it off, but that adorable smile of hers just made me want to forgive her. I'm going to be a horrible father, aren't I? That momentary lapse of tension was erased by her next words. It's good that they found the grandson safe and sound. Unable to respond right away, I sunk into silence. I had already learned this from Sato-san's info, didn't I? This girl, no, this entire village knew everything since the moment I set foot in it. I considered playing dumb, but in the end I chose not to. With everything being known already, there was no point in me feigning ignorance. Somehow. That's great. Now you can go back to Tokyo. Thank you. Are your injuries bad, Akasaka? I haven't heard anything from the doctor yet, so I don't know if they are or not. Huh? When I think about it, I vaguely remember being told to lie down and take it easy for at least 24 hours. Did that mean bed rest? The wounded shouldn't be sneaking out of the hospital. People shouldn't be cutting phone cords. I have no idea what you're talking about. And I don't know what you're talking about either. As we played dumb with each other, we both laughed at the same time. If somebody saw us laughing at each other like this, it would probably bring a smile to their lips. Oh, that's a lovely moon. Chances of Akasaka leaving this village alive weren't very high. I don't want Akasaka to die, so I'm glad you're leaving the village alive. Rika-chan, did you know what I was right from the beginning? She said nothing, but gave a firm nod. Well then, I think you know this, but we're probably somewhat of an enemy to the people in this village, I would think. But you still gave me lots of warnings. That's right. She said it at that time. She warned somebody that she was okay with dying. She definitely said something like that. And I should probably be thinking. You probably should. I'm your savior. Saying that, she puffed up her chest proudly. She said it jokingly, but the meaning behind those words was quite heavy. That was because whether I lived or died was a decision that might have been made in a place unbeknownst to me. She said those words with such an adorable smile that it took a few moments of silence for their weight to settle in. I had been to this place before. The Defense Alliance's office. There was the stone steps leading up to the Furude Shrine. I passed by before. I was so focused on finding a phone booth that I hadn't realized where I was. If I recall correctly, the shrine is Rika-chan's house, right? Yeah, something like that. Up at the shrine grounds, it was brightly lit and energetic voices could be heard. What's going on? There's a festival today. A festival? The best and only festival in Hinazawa. Watanagashi Festival. Watanagashi? Continent drifting? Just knowing the name is boring. You want to take a look? She asked bluntly, but seeing that I looked interested, she climbed up a couple steps and motioned for me to come. I was only going to go back and sleep anyways. If I had nothing else to do, it might not be a bad idea to go with her on a little detour. In the hostile territory that was this village, I didn't know what would happen if I ventured down a side road without Oishi. Even though I thought of the village like that, when I was with this girl, I forgot all about it. In any case, even without trying to back it up, I felt that as long as I was with her, none of the ill will of my village would befall me. But even though I knew my cover was blown, I certainly had no qualms about setting foot into the heart of the Onogufuchi Defense Alliance's territory. Climbing up to the grounds of the shrine, you could see there were about 3 pavilions set up with meeting tables and folding chairs. The old folks from the village know the executives of the Defense Alliance were already quite drunkenly sharing another round of drinks. I could only see it as people from the village council drinking while enjoying the evening air. At the very least, it was certainly quite different than any festival I'd ever seen. See? It's quite a boring festival, isn't it? It certainly doesn't look like a festival. It's a festival that's happened since long ago, but as you can see, it's not like it used to be. As if to chide the old folk, Said that while looking at them with an exasperated expression. You really couldn't call this a festival anymore. It was just a bunch of neighbors getting together to drink under the guise of a festival. Haha, I feel sorry for the deity being celebrated here. If this sorry excuse for a festival 5 or 6 more years, then everybody in the village will start coming. The ceremony will also be done properly, and it will be a respectable festival again. What she said was not so much wishful thinking as it was the telling of a future that had already been determined. Oh, really? It wasn't even predicting it. It was almost like she was simply reporting the results. Almost like she knows. That's how it sounded. Even though it was baseless speculation, the way she said it wouldn't let me interject. It was the same way she talked when she changed. When I shrieked to find the words to reply to her, she wandered over to the other side of the grounds, not minding me at all. Not in a state where I could afford to be left behind, I hurriedly followed after her. Passing through a copse of pine trees, a strong and cool breeze ruffled my hair. There, from that one evening, was a splendid observation platform the girl had showed me. As it had grown completely dark, the modest lights littered across the nightscape, providing a different type of scenery. Looking at it like this, the village seems tranquil. She said that with an indifferent look on her face. Just the other day, you said that this village wouldn't be submerged by the dam, didn't you? She didn't reply, seemingly relishing the feeling of the wind blowing through her hair. Didn't that mean at that point in time the mills had already complied with the demands? Going around, her gaze meeting mine, but she said nothing. She spoke nothing that would neither confirm nor deny what I just said. In this case, we'll probably remain shrouded in darkness. Headquarters probably doesn't want trouble with it from a scandal with the minister breaking out. No mistake that they threatened to kill the grandchild. The negotiations with the minister were successful, and the grandson was released. The one who said the grandson was you. I wonder about that. The discovery of that wallet started this chain of events. That alone was almost too convenient, I think. Ever since the moment the wallet was so, but something was odd. The way she said it as well. But the son's family had given the order to release the hostage, meaning that our little manhunt was a farce to begin with. Come to think of it now, I was punched, kicked, and had a gun pointed at me. I felt like they put up quite a fight, but that might have been all part of a good performance. Once the negotiations were successful, they couldn't just say, "Here you go," and return the minister's grandson right to his doorstep. They knew that public safety had realized that this was a kidnapping case, and were moving in on it. That's why, due to the action of public safety, the grandson was able to be rescued safely. So the minister didn't give in to any reasonable demands. That type of performance was necessary. I don't know about these difficult things. Likewise, even for me, I can't make much sense of it. But there's one thing I can't be certain of. It's just as you said. This village won't be submerged. The dam project will soon be over. That wasn't something an officer of the law should be saying, but I naturally let those words slip from my mouth. This village may have stirred up all sorts of trouble. That was because they were protecting their homes. If someone just decided by themselves that I had to leave the house I was used to living in, I would resent them as well. On top of that, it wasn't a place like mine, where I just happened to be renting it, but a place that their families had lived for generations. I might be ignorant to call their desperate resistance an overreaction. I might not really be qualified to criticize politics or bureaucracy. Deliberately building a dam on land that was loved by its residents wasn't something I could get behind. Still, aren't you glad? How would that be? At the very least, with this, peace will return to this village. Even though the minister promised to use his considerable influence to cancel the project, it would probably take more than a few months before it would be completely scrapped. At the very least, it would probably take 1 or 2 years for the villagers to officially hear that their village wasn't going to be submerged at the bottom of a dam still a ways away. But it was no mistake that the promise of peace returning to the village was there. It turned out from beginning to end that it had already been decided. Just as the girl had said, it was decided. There wasn't really a need for me to come here in the first place. There's absolutely no need for me to have come here and aggravate an unpleasant situation. I've never come here then? The grandson's release might have been done in a more amicable manner. Peace? In this village? When I nodded, she laughed as if to admonish me. But her face remained indifferent, expressionless. Then her eyes narrowed slightly as she snickered. Though every year from now on, something bloody will occur. Like a certain curse. Hee. Rika-chan, what are you talking about? As the wind blew her hair about the girl, as if taking pleasure in that I was the only one who didn't know, continued to snicker as she looked at my face for a while. You see, in a few years, I'll be killed. Huh? Backlit by the moon, it was hard to tell if her expression that had been cast in shadow was smiling, amused, or resigned. You are? Why? It's a very unpleasant thing, though. It's also probably just been decided already. Who would decide this sort of thing? I'd like to know that as well. Turning back to face me, she showed me a resolute expression for the first time. Her staring into my eyes for a moment, turned back to gaze at the scenery before she spoke her next words. There's a lot of people who have no regard for human life. If I tell you this, it might not change anything though. But if you want to erase the specter of death, sometimes, like with the reflection of the moon on the water, all you have to do is throw a small stone. I had no idea what she was trying to say. It's just, I had to listen to every word with my body and soul, or at least that's what I thought. This day, next year, yes, June 1979, on this day, the foreman of the dam construction project will be killed. What? For a moment, I couldn't comprehend what she was talking about. But the foreman, does she mean that guff-old man I played mahjong with? But be killed? What makes you think? She didn't answer. Oh wait, the dude that we played mahjong with. That's the dude that gets severed, like killed and then severed, and all the body parts get taken away except for of course the arm being still. Like everything gets found except the arm and all that. That was that dude. Huh. But she had the same expression on her face as she did when she declared that the dam project would go away. That wasn't the face of somebody making a forecast or a prediction. It was something that was already decided. No. It was as if she was already reporting the results, that sort of expression. After being killed in a gruesome manner, the body would be torn apart and disposed of. Murdered and dismembered. The next year, in June of 1980, on this day, Satsuko's parents would be punished to their deaths. Satsuko. The first time I heard that name, but I didn't have the courage to interrupt the girl's story. It might be an accident, an unfortunate accident. The girl smiled faintly, but she wasn't exactly encouraging me to smile along with the lifeless look in her eyes. And then the year after that, this day of June 1981, my parents will be killed. And then the year after that, this day in June of 1982, Satsuko's abusive aunt will have her head split open and die. And then the year after that, this day in the June of 1983, or possibly a few days afterwards, I will be killed. If all of the deaths are preordained, then the last one would also be all according to plan. But then, whose plan would it be? There's blood. This village was full of murderers and people who have no regard for human life. It would be fine to believe that all of the deaths up to 1982 would be the work of somebody in the village. It would be fine to believe that all of the deaths that would occur were at the discretion of those who control the village. That didn't explain what would happen in 1983. There's no way that the last death would fit with anyone's plan. They had no regard for human life. They would use every means at their disposal to meet their goals. But their goals were at odds with their last death. That's why the last death was unrelated to them. The last death would definitely, most likely, probably, without question, happen. Probably, definitely, I dare say. The last death would be a merciful one. A handkerchief or something being placed over their mouth, making them lose consciousness, never to wake up again. Exactly whose plan was that? I want to live happily. That's my only wish. Surrounded by my precious friends, spending our days enjoyably. Only that. I don't wish for anything more than that. Kichan, want to die? The girl stoic as ever let those last words slip in the end. Okay. Eventually we were discovered by some drunks. The girl, as well as I, were dragged back to the festivities. Everybody was completely drunk, so even when they saw my head completely wrapped in bandages, they wouldn't let me leave. Well, certainly if I was in good enough condition to slip out of the hospital, it must not be that serious. The girl was mingling with everybody, being pampered like a kitten. Her expression was adorable, nothing like the one from just before, predicting her own death and whispering that she didn't want to die. Having said that, having a silly and lively conversation like this, it was hard to believe that these people are the core of an extremist resistance group. Even if it was a shell of its former self, it was a festival where people in the village gathered. The 20-some-odd folk here should have included some of the village executives and other important members. Among those, there were no doubt that there were members that were at the Sonozaki family council in attendance, meaning even if we never met face-to-face before, there were people here who knew my identity. In a small village like this, they knew the faces of all the villagers that lived here. That's why, without even saying anything, it soon became obvious that I was an outsider. They actually seemed interested by that, asking me all sorts of questions about Tokyo. Drinking while musing on the faint relationship the city had with the villagers, emphasizing with a rather meager environment. The confidential talks with the minister were finished, his grandson was in police custody, and everything was over. Might not have to be put in another perilous situation. To me, they were only my adversaries because of my job. Outside of that, there was no reason I couldn't be friendly with them. The next time I visited this village, would it return to being a tranquil and beautiful place? If that happened, I might be able to take a relaxed walk around the village with her again. My cup was once again filled to the brim with beer. By the time I was able to get away, it was the middle of the night. The girl had at some point disappeared. It seemed that her parents had told her to go home and sleep when she let out a large yawn. The old folks who had absolutely no remorse for making an injured person hang out with them told me as much as they laughed. I was just there drinking, so I had thought to help a bit with cleanup. However, my help was refused on the grounds that I was a guest. After that, they had a car prepared to take me back to the hospital. Pushing the battle against my sleepiness, inside the car, I was sound asleep until we reached the parking lot of the hospital. The front door of the hospital was naturally locked at this hour. I wandered around, bewilderedly searching for a back entrance, until someone on night duty found me and let me inside. How were you this late at night? Dr. Airy was worried, you know. Sorry for the trouble. I was held up by the people who were having a festival at the shrine. Oh, they did say something about everybody in the town council getting together for a drink. My condolences. Are your wounds alright? They're thriving a bit. It's probably because of the alcohol thing. Oh, that's right. The detective that was with you wanted to get in touch. Oops, I kept Alicia waiting. I glanced at the clock. No matter how you look at it, it was way too late to call him now. I'll apologize to him tomorrow over the phone. I returned back to my hospital room and slipped into the bed that was unmade from the time I went outside. Oh, that's not good. I had to turn off the lights. But my awareness had cut the cord powering my body, lulling me into a deep sleep. Okay, I guess that wasn't the final chapter. Well, I guess we'll wait until another time for that then. In the meantime, hope you enjoyed. Hope you return for more. Subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of all future videos, and check out some of my other videos while you're at it. Hope you return for more. Bye-bye.